Nobody throws a party when you decide to stop chasing the life everyone told you to want. Nobody claps, nobody hands you a trophy. There's no ceremony when you walk out of the office for the last time, not dramatically. Not in a movie moment, just quietly with a box of your things. Or maybe not even a box. Maybe you just close a browser tab, send a final email, and that's it. That's the exit, no applause. And yet every single year, millions of people are doing exactly that. Quietly, invisibly. They're not going viral. They're not writing best-selling memoirs, at least not yet. They're just leaving, walking away from careers that looked incredible on paper. Walking away from salaries that made their parents proud. Walking away from a version of success that cost them everything except the things that actually mattered. And if you're watching this video, there's a good chance you felt that pull. That quiet voice that says, this isn't it, not a breakdown, not a crisis. Just a slow, growing certainty that something is deeply, fundamentally off. And today we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about why the smartest, most capable people are the ones most likely to escape the rat race, and why the fact that nobody applauds them for it might actually be the whole point. Okay, let's get something straight right out of the gate. When I say rat race, I don't mean work. I want to make that distinction clear because this isn't about being lazy. This isn't about not wanting to contribute or build or achieve. The rat race isn't about effort. It's about a very specific kind of effort that runs in circles. Effort that is permanently aimed at external validation. Effort that keeps you permanently one rung below, wherever you need to be to feel like you've arrived. The term comes from psychology, from animal behavior studies, actually. They put rats in a wheel, the rats run, they get nowhere. But they keep running, because the wheel is designed so that the faster they run, the faster it spins. That's the trap, and we've built an entire economic and social system that mirrors it almost perfectly. You get a job to make money. You need the money to support the lifestyle that your job requires. You need the lifestyle to signal status. You need the status to justify the job. Round and round it goes. Robert Kiyosaki described it this way in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and whatever you think of his financial advice. This part is surgical. He said most people spend their lives working for money, instead of having money work for them. And the reason they stay stuck is because every time they get a raise, their expenses go up to match it. The hamster wheel just gets bigger. That's the trap, not poverty, not failure. The trap is success that leads nowhere. And here's what makes it so insidious: the rat race is comfortable. That's the whole design. It gives you just enough reward, just enough certainty, just enough social approval to keep you running. The mortgage keeps you in line. The car payment keeps you in line. The LinkedIn profile, the corporate title, the performance review, all of it functions as a gentle, invisible fence. You don't feel the fence until you try to leave. And when you do try to leave, you discover something. Everyone around you has a very strong opinion about how you should stay. So let's talk about the moment, because there always is one. Or rather, there are usually several, building up over years before you finally let yourself hear them. I call it the awakening, but that makes it sound more dramatic than it usually is. Most of the time it's quiet. It's sitting in a meeting that you've sat in 400 times before, and suddenly you can't unsee it. The theater of it, the way everyone is performing competence and urgency and importance, including you. Especially you, or it's a Sunday afternoon dread, not just the usual Monday anxiety, something deeper. A grief almost, for the week that just ended, for the hours that are gone. You did everything right that week. You hit your targets, you sent your emails. And yet when you sit there on Sunday evening, you feel like you lost something. And you're not sure what. David Foster Wallace gave one of the most famous commencement speeches ever recorded. This is water, and in it. He talks about two young fish swimming along, and an older fish swims past and says, "Morning, boys. How's the water?" And the two young fish swim on for a bit. And then one of them looks over at the other and asks, "What the hell is water?" The point is that the most obvious and important realities are often the hardest to see because you've never had to. The rat race is water. You don't notice it until you start drowning in it. Now here's the interesting thing. The data, and I want to talk about data here because this isn't just philosophy. The data suggests that people with higher cognitive ability, higher emotional intelligence, and stronger intrinsic motivation are actually more likely to reach this moment of awakening. Not less, you might think that smarter people would play the game better. And they do, right up until they can't pretend the game is worth playing anymore. Research on self-determination theory by Edward Desai and Richard Ryan found that human beings have three core psychological needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. When those needs are genuinely met, people thrive. But here's the catch. The rat race typically satisfies competence on the surface while systematically destroying autonomy. You become very good at something that someone else decided was important. And the smarter you are, the faster you recognize that gap, the faster you feel it. Let's get specific. Because I think when we talk about leaving the rat race, people picture a tech bro cashing out his stock options and buying a farm in Vermont. Or some influencer quitting their corporate job and going viral about it. That's the version we see, but that's not the majority. The majority are accountants who start tutoring on the side and slowly, quietly, build something that pays them without a ceiling. They're teachers who start writing, nurses who start consulting, engineers who go independent. They don't quit dramatically, they just redirect. And why do the smartest people lead this charge? A few reasons. First, they're better at pattern recognition. They can see the trajectory of their career over a 10-year arc and recognize that what lies ahead, the next promotion, the next level, the added responsibility with the barely their salary bump, is not qualitatively different from where they are now. It's just more of the same cage with slightly nicer bars. Second, they have higher risk tolerance for the right reasons. Counterintuitive, I know. We usually associate intelligence with caution. But research on entrepreneurship suggests that smarter individuals are often better at assessing risk accurately, meaning they're less afraid of the risks that are actually manageable, and more aware of the risks that most people never account for, like the risk of spending your entire career doing work that doesn't matter to you, like the risk of arriving at 65 with a pension and no identity outside of your job title. Those are real risks. Intelligent people feel them acutely. Third, and this one is the most important, smart people are better at building alternative mental models. They can imagine a different version of their life in enough detail to make it real. This is crucial because most people stay stuck not because they want to, but because they literally cannot picture what leaving would look like. They can't construct the alternative in their mind with enough resolution to make it feel real or possible. Smart people can, and that imagination is both a gift and a burden. Because here's what leaving actually costs. And I will not sugarcoat this part because too many people do, and it leads to shock. Leaving costs relationships. When you stop playing the game, some of the people around you, colleagues, friends, even family, will take it personally. They'll interpret your escape as a judgment on their choice to stay. You didn't say anything, you just left. But to them, your leaving implies that there was something worth leaving. And that implication is uncomfortable. It costs identity. This one surprises people most. When you've built your entire sense of self around a job title, a company, a career, and then you step away from that, you go through a genuine identity crisis. Who are you without the label? It's disorienting, sometimes it's terrifying. And the silence where the applause used to be, it's deafening at first. It also costs money, at least temporarily in most cases. The financial dip is real. The gap between leaving and landing somewhere new, whether that's a business, freelance work, passive income, whatever, that gap is real, it takes time. And you need to be prepared for it. Let's talk about social programming for a minute, because this is really the engine of the rat race. Not money, not corporations. The engine is the story we've all been handed about what a good life looks like. School, degree, job, promotion, mortgage, marriage, kids, retirement. That's the script. And we follow it not because someone forces us to, but because deviation from the script is culturally punished in ways that are hard to articulate but impossible to ignore. Think about what happens at a family dinner when you tell someone you're quitting your stable job to pursue something on your own. The room changes, the questions start. But do you have savings? What if it doesn't work out? Have you really thought this through? And notice, nobody asks those questions when you accept a promotion. Nobody demands that you justify staying inside the system. The pressure only flows in one direction. Out is dangerous, in is safe. That's the script. Sociologist Hartmut Rosa wrote about what he calls social acceleration. This idea that modern life has sped up to the point where we're all running just to stay in place. The pace of demands, of expectations, of information, it's all accelerating. And the people who feel this most acutely are, again, the people who are paying close attention. The people who can't tune out. The ones who can't stop noticing that they're exhausted not from doing too much, but from doing too much of the wrong thing. There's a concept in behavioral economics called the treadmill effect, or sometimes hedonic adaptation. It's the finding that humans are remarkably good at returning to a baseline level of happiness, regardless of what happens to them. Win the lottery within a year, back to baseline. Get a promotion within 6 months. The new salary feels normal, and the new pressure feels normal, and you're back to wanting more. The rat race exploits this perfectly. It keeps dangling the next thing just far enough ahead that you never catch it. And your brain is wired to keep running. Okay, so we've talked about the trap. We've talked about the awakening. We've talked about the cost. Now let's talk about what the exit actually looks like. Not the Instagram version, but the real one. Because I think a lot of people have a binary picture in their head. Either you escape in a blaze of glory, you post a letter of resignation that goes viral. You sell everything and move to Bali, or you're stuck. And that binary is a trap in itself. The real exits are usually gradual. They're methodical, they're boring to watch from the outside. Someone starts a side project. They spend a year learning a skill that wasn't in their job description. They save aggressively with an exit in mind. They test ideas on weekends. They build slowly in the margins of their current life until the margins become the main thing. That's not a dramatic escape. That's a controlled transition. And it's the version that actually works. There are a few patterns that show up consistently among people who successfully leave. First, they get very clear on what they're running toward, not just what they're running from. Because running from something is fear-based, and fear-based decisions run out of fuel. Running toward something, a specific vision of autonomy, creativity, meaning, contribution, that has legs. That sustains you through the messy middle. Second, they develop financial literacy as a non-negotiable. Not because money is the goal, but because financial ignorance is the cage. When you don't understand how money works, how assets accumulate, how cash flow operates, how to build income streams that don't require your physical presence every hour, you're dependent. And dependence is the mechanism of the rat race. You can't negotiate your life from a position of desperation. Third, they find community outside the system. This one gets underestimated enormously. One of the reasons the rat race has such gravitational pull is that most of your social world is inside it. Your colleagues, your social rituals, your sense of belonging, it's all tied to the structure. When you leave, you need a different network. Not a replacement echo chamber, but people who are building differently, thinking differently, living differently. That exposure matters. It makes the alternative feel real and achievable. And fourth, this might be the most counterintuitive one. They stop waiting for permission. This sounds obvious, but it runs very deep. So many people are waiting for the right moment, the right amount in savings, the right sign from the universe, the right response from their family. They want external validation for an internal decision. And that validation never comes because the system is not designed to validate exits. The system validates staying, so you have to make peace with the fact that you will leave without a send-off, without applause, and that has to be okay. I want to close with this. There's a reason the title of this video is Escaping Without Applause. And it's not because leaving is lonely, though it can be. Temporarily, It's because the absence of applause is actually the clearest signal that you're no longer playing the game. The game was the applause. The performance reviews, the LinkedIn congratulations, the promotion announcements, all of that was the applause. And when you stop needing it, when the silence stops feeling like failure and starts feeling like freedom, that's when you know you're actually out. The smartest people who leave the rat race don't leave because they couldn't succeed in it. Most of them succeeded, that's how they know it wasn't enough. They leave because success within a broken system is still a broken outcome. They leave because they finally trust their own judgment more than they trust the collective pressure of a world that never asked them what they actually wanted. And that trust, built slowly, often quietly, often alone, is maybe the most important thing a person can develop. So if you're in that place right now, if you're feeling the pull, if you're sitting in that Sunday dread, if you keep having a thought you keep dismissing, I just want to say, that thought is data, don't dismiss it, sit with it, ask it what it knows. And then, when you're ready, not recklessly, but genuinely ready, trust it. Build the exit, don't wait for the applause, it's not coming, and you won't need it. Thanks for watching. If this hit something real for you, share it with someone who's running on the wheel and starting to wonder why. And I'll see you in the next one.